Hey everyone, welcome to Science Mania. I am Ritika and today I am back with another video on the Class 7 Science chapter number 10, that is Respiration in Organisms. So let's get started. So we all breathe about 20,000 times in a day. But what happens to the air that goes inside the body? Let's find out. So now, let us understand that what is breathing. Breathing means taking in air rich in oxygen and giving out air that is rich in carbon dioxide. When we take in air, it is known as inhalation. When we give out air, it is known as exhalation. And the number of times a person breathes in a minute is known as breathing rate. Now, let us understand that why do we need to breathe? All organisms are made of fundamental units of life called cells. Each cell of an organism does various functions like nutrition, transportation, excretion, and reproduction. Now, for doing all these actions, the cells need energy. But where does the energy come from? Let's find out. The energy comes from the food that we eat. So the food that you eat has energy stored in it, and the energy that you take in is equal to the energy that you give out. That is why you feel hungry after a heavy exercise. But if the food that we eat has energy stored in it, then why do we need to respire? How do both these connect? Let me tell you. The food that we eat has energy in it, but that energy is released only when respiration occurs. The food has energy stored, but your respiration is the key for opening it. Therefore, all the living organisms respire to get energy from food. The air we breathe in has oxygen, and that oxygen is transported to all the cells in our body. And then the oxygen in our cells helps in the breakdown of food. And the process of breakdown of food with the help of oxygen is known as cellular respiration. In the cell, the food, that is the glucose, gives us energy, right? Is broken down to carbon dioxide and water. When breakdown of glucose occurs with the use of oxygen, it is known as aerobic respiration. The food is broken down to carbon dioxide and water with releasing of energy. And that's how the formula of aerobic respiration looks like. Glucose in the presence of oxygen gives out carbon dioxide, water, and energy. There are some organisms, such as yeast, that can survive in the absence of oxygen. And that's how a yeast looks like. Yeast is an anaerobe, and all the organisms like yeast are known as anaerobes. These respire anaerobically, and their method of respiration is known as anaerobic respiration. And how does anaerobic respiration work? Let's find out. Anaerobic respiration in yeast. So, in the absence of oxygen, glucose breaks down into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Glucose, in the absence of oxygen, produces alcohol, carbon dioxide, plus releasing energy. Humans can respire anaerobically as well, but only for a short period of time when there is a temporary loss of oxygen. This happens while heavy exercise and when the body needs more energy. So that's why you might feel hungry after a heavy exercise. So, glucose in the muscle gives the glucose in our muscle in the absence of oxygen produces lactic acid releasing energy. But why do you get muscle cramps once you're done with your heavy exercise? Oh well, that's because of the lactic acid. It produces the pain. Now, let us talk about the journey that the air takes. When we inhale air, it passes through our nostrils into the nasal cavity. So here is where our nostrils are, and this is the nasal passage or the nasal cavity. From there, from the nasal passage, the air reaches to our lungs from the windpipe. The windpipe is right here, and it consists of the pharynx and the trachea. Lungs are in the chest cavity. It is surrounded and protected by the ribs. And below the lungs, you can see down below the lungs there is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is nothing but a small fleshy organ that gives support to the chest cavity. It's like the base, the foundation of it. When we inhale, the ribs move up and outwards, and the diaphragm moves down, and vice versa. So that means that when we exhale, the ribs move down and inwards, and the diaphragm moves up. Now, let us see, how does a cockroach breathe? Interesting. They do this by using a very efficient breathing system that uses air-filled tubes called trachea to deliver oxygen directly to cells. Oxygen flows in as required into the tracheal system through valves on the insect called spiracles. So, you can see the small dots right here. These are all spiracles. From here, the oxygen moves the air with the oxygen moves in and the carbon dioxide moves out. So, as you can see, the oxygen goes in and spreads to the whole body. That's what happens actually. Now, fish live in the water. So, how do they breathe? You must have seen they keep opening and closing their mouth. So, how does that help? Let me tell you. So, as you can see over here, here's a fish and it has these little gills on the sides of his head. When the water flows inside, the water travels through the gills and out from a small cut on the side. The gills have small blood vessels like these in the picture, as you can see. And these are known as capillaries. As the fish opens its mouth, the water runs over the gills and the blood in the capillaries picks up the oxygen that's dissolved in the water. Now, let us talk about the cellular respiration or the process of respiration in plants. Leaves consists of tiny pores known as stomata. Now, from the stomata has guard cells over it. When the guard cell opens over the stoma, the oxygen can go in and the carbon dioxide can go out. So, the exchange of gases occurs with the closing and opening of the stoma. Interesting, right? Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe and keep breathing. I'm sure you must have understood it's important.